It is time to draft, and we open up Xenagos the Reveler, which we are going to take, and then we'll see if green-red is open, or maybe we'll have to try to splash it. 5-color green also an option. Let's see what we're passing. Magma Jet and Heliod's Emissary, 2 good uncommons. Baleful Eidolon, Spearpoint Aureate, God's Willing, Lash of the Whip, and a Traveler's Amulet. Nothing too exciting. I wouldn't be happy about first picking any of these commons. I like God's Willing a lot, but I usually want to pick it up a little later. If Xenagos wasn't in the pack, I would probably go with Heliod's Emissary here, because having a white bestow creature just works a lot better in the format than having a 2 damage spell in Magma Jet, simply because creatures get so huge so easily. Alright, we are getting past Anger of the Gods. I'm usually not a big fan of symmetric mass removal effects. It also doesn't have the best synergy with making 2/2 satyrs, but with Xenagos as a first pick, Anger of the Gods might just be what we want. Let's look at the alternatives. There is Wavecrash Triton, Disciple of Phoenix, Return Phalanx, Nylea's Disciple. All of these are fine, but don't work particularly well with our first pick. Nylea's Disciple is an alright card, but not something I would like to second pick, to be honest. I know that Raphael Levy liked to draft these really highly at one of the limited Grand Prix I covered, but that was a very particular strategy, which I'm not going to go for. I'm going to pick the rare here. Might be a small signal. Somebody took a common out of this pack, so hopefully red stays open. Alright, 4 uncomes in this pack, one of them being a foil Keepsake Gorgon, which is pretty insane. In my opinion, it's the best uncome in the set, even though it's a bit clunky. Just having a 2/5 Death Touch is already pretty great. Insatiable Harpy, also very good card. And then there is Wingsteed Rider, arguably the best common in the format. And Dragon Mantle, if we just wanted to stick to picking red cards here. I think that Dragon Mantle is better than Centaur Battlemaster and Arena Athlete. Even though heroic creatures are a bit tough to come by, the fact that Dragon Mantle draws you a card while enabling everything that the red deck wants to do gives it the edge, in my opinion. I'm going to make a pick based on power level here, and that means taking Keepsake Gorgon. Wingsteed Rider works, doesn't look like it works well with Anger of the Gods and Xenagos, while Keepsake Gorgon could lead into a sweet Junt-colored black-green-red control deck. Even though I don't really try to be control in this format, this might be the start that we need to go for it. Alright, Timurid the Murder King is a fine value card, but nothing that gets me too excited. It's just a 2/2 for 2 when it comes down to it. Talking about 2/2s for 2, there's Satyr Hedonist, Satyr Rambler, and Leonin Snarecaster, all of which don't interest me, but there is some nice 5-drops. Ferris Band Centaurs, another Centaur Battlemaster, and Stonechuck Giant. Now, with the cards that we already have, a 5/4 that becomes monstrous looks to be a much better fit than a heroic creature that's going to need targeting effects that we don't really want in our deck. And this is really good at killing opponents at some point also. The fact that it survives Anger of the Gods is a nice bonus, and sometimes you don't really look at this card at all when deciding what to put in your deck or which cards to pick, but sometimes it's one of the best cards in your deck. So I like Stonechuck Giant here. Alright, Traveler's Amulet is an option because we might be looking to splash something. Witch's Eye isn't interesting yet. We have to wait until Born of the Gods comes out to try it again with the inspired creatures. And then we have Commune with the Gods and Nessian Cursor in green. I like Nessian Cursor, even though it is 3 toughness. It's 3 mana, 3/3, which is all I'm asking for, really. The problem is that I'm not really supporting my Keepsake Gorgon that well, and I could be playing black-red just splashing green, which would be a lot simpler. Gonna go with the Cursor here, and I think the alternative would be to pick Traveler's Amulet just to stay a little more open. On the other hand, there is the potential of picking up Nylea's Presences, which mean that even splashing Keepsake Gorgon or just being a base green deck could work out nicely. This pack is the first pack that I'm not too excited about. Satyr Hedonist is definitely playable, but not spectacular. With Anger of the Gods, Xenagos, Stoneshock Giant, it might be a little more interesting to have the mana boost. And we could also pick up the Nemesis of Mortals, which it combos with quite nicely. I'm not going to take a white card here. That isn't something that I've gotten any signals for, apart from the second pick Wingsteed Rider that we didn't take. So yeah, a weak pack, but Scorchmark isn't what this deck is looking for, so the Hedonist it is. This pack has Read the Bones, always an option, but as I said, we have to make sure that our mana works out somehow. Ferrous Band Centaurs and Borderland Minotaur. Now Borderland Minotaur is actually very solid. 4 mana 4/3 is nothing to scoff at, despite the fact that it dies to Anger of the Gods, but we could hopefully play around that a little bit. I like it better than the 3/7/4/5, that's for sure. I'm just looking at Read the Bones because I think Read the Bones is a very rare effect in this format, and it might just be the card that this deck wants more than a generic creature. I'm gonna take Read the Bones. It's a bit more messy when looking at the mana, but there's a huge payoff to having Read the Bones in your deck. Shredding Wing is a potential sideboard card. Farika's Mender returns a creature or an enchantment. I'm actually not a fan of the Mender. I know that some people like it a lot, but it hasn't really done too much for me. I'm not going to take a sideboard card just yet, but Borderland Minotaur looks to be a really nice card. We passed on the first one, but now I'm going to take it. And with the few green cards we've been seeing, the few great green cards, it's actually possible that we have to go into black-red control, splashing only the Xenagos. Alright, Baleful Eidolon tabling makes me think that this could actually be a realistic option, and makes it at the same time really difficult to decide between this pick. Do we take Traveler's Amulet to make our mana base work more nicely, or do we take the Death Touch Eidolon, which just trades with any creature our opponent could muster on the ground? I'm all for consistency, and Traveler's Amulet is the pick that makes this colorful mess more consistent. 3 double red cards, gold mythic, 2 black cards, 3 green cards. I just want the fixing. Although I really like Baleful Eidolon, it would have been great in this deck. Coming with the Gods is the only card I'm really interested in here. Flash Mad Steed is definitely replaceable. Alright, this is a bit more interesting. Dreaded Cerberus isn't going to make it, it doesn't fit into this deck. Bloodtoll Harpy is fine in any black deck, in my experience, it's just a solid card. But even Boulder Fall isn't completely out of the question. With the kind of control deck that we're trying to draft, it wouldn't be horrible to pick up a Boulder Fall. I'm going to take Bloodtoll Harpy now, but if I see another late Boulder Fall, I might just want to take it, because it works really nicely with the Anger of the Gods, and maybe even the plus ability on Xenagos. Satyr Rambler, Anvil Rod Raptor. Alright, even a Triton Shore Thief. And we can probably hide this as well. Alright, no idea where this is going. Definitely all possible color combinations still in the running. Alright, we opened Agent of the Fates. Double black, but potentially powerful. On the other hand, a heroic creature, which we currently can't target at all. So this definitely a minus. Perforos' Emissary, great in aggressive decks, but also really solid in all kind of red decks. Some green cards, Karametra's Acolyte, Savage Surge, Time to Feed, and Nessian Asp, probably the best common out of the bunch. Sip of Hemlock doesn't really compete with the raw power of the snake. The Simple's pick would be Agent of the Fates, but I have a feeling that it might not do too much in the deck we're trying to draft. If we end up black-red, Agent isn't going to trigger, which I really don't like, and the double black doesn't really work too well with the double red requirements that we already have. I believe this deck wants Nestian Asp the most out of these options, and hopefully table the Acolyte or Time to Feed. because both of these would be really nice as well. Another difficult pick though. Alright, Traveler's Amulet number 2, Voyaging Satyr, Ordeal of Nylea, and some more aggressive-minded red cards. Voyaging Satyr looks like it would be perfect for this deck with the Xenagos that we already have, and even when we're looking at splashing some black cards, this could potentially generate double black for us. Not going to take Ordeal of Nylea because we don't have the early pressure to support it, and it should be clear why Voyaging Satyr is better than the aggressive red cards in the deck we're trying to draft. Of course, we don't have support for the Titan, and yeah, the first Satyr is definitely better than a second Amulet. Alright, Pyxis of Pandemonium is not going to be the pick, but there is Savage Surge and Nylea's Presence. Nylea's Presence I've been talking about a bit because it does help our mana substantially and could make the Gorgon a realistic option. It is quite early to pick this third in the second pack, but looking at this pack, we aren't really losing anything. Both Portent of Betrayal and Savage Surge aren't the cards that we are looking for in the strategy we are trying to pursue. Alright, this pack is really bad for us. Gift of Immortality and Ordeal of Thassa, Vaporkin, all of these cards we won't be able to cast. Cutthroat Maneuver could be nice because we have some fatties, and it looks a lot better than Warrior's Lesson to me. Our deck isn't interested in attacking with cheap creatures and then drawing 2 cards for a single green. I'm not a fan of the Maneuver, and it's black, which we've been moving away from. So this might just be a pack where we hate draft something just to not lose to it. For example, the Vaporkin or the Ordeal or the Gift of Immortality. I'm going to take out the Ordeal because it is the easiest for the opponent to convert into a free win, which I don't want to happen. Looks like we're getting a bit more options here. Farika's Cure, Returned Phalanx, Disciple of Phoenix, and Sip of Hemlock in black. And that's pretty much it. Spark Drought isn't a main deck card, and the other cards aren't in our colors. So it's either a double black card or the Phalanx. But the problem is that when you look at the color sort, we are currently more interested in drafting green-red, which also supports the Xenagos naturally. If we start picking up black cards that are very color-intensive, then we probably look at not playing any of the red cards except for Xenagos, which makes me a bit sad because it's not what I want to be doing. I'm going to highlight Sip of Hemlock here because an arbitrary creature destruction seems more important than having a 2 damage spell, and Disciple of Phoenix isn't going to be great because this deck is definitely not accomplishing a clear devotion game plan. Alright, Viper's Kiss would be an option against early aggression. Then there is the not too exciting Fellhide Minotaur with Titan Strength potentially just being a playable card for our deck. Now, as I said, the real problem is that I don't know where this is going. I think green is pretty much set with Xenagos, the Asp, Nylea's Presence, and the Satyr giving us a really good start. So this might be wrong. I'm just going to take Titan Strength because I like it a lot better than Fellhide Minotaur. I think that Fellhide Minotaur is really replaceable, but it's very easily could be the case that we just wasted this pick because we end up black-green instead. Talking about black, there's Viper's Kiss, Cavern Lampad, Rescue from the Underworld, and Dark Betrayal, out of which Cavern Lampad looks the most solid to me. It also synergizes nicely with large creatures, which are mostly red in our deck. So the alternative would be Satyr Rambler, but with the Hedonist and 1 Rambler in our deck already, don't think that we need mediocre 2-drops at this stage. I'm going to take the Lampad. And then there is nothing really. We could take Thassa's Bounty. Not that I'm planning to play it, but alternatively there's Fate into Antiquity, really just a sideboard card, but I mean Thassa's Bounty isn't scary, so let's take that. Another Sip of Hemlock, so that makes me reconsider things. Maybe black-green splashing red is an option after all. Just the Xenagos, Traveler's Amulet, a mountain, and then if we are feeling greedy, we can still try to fit Anger of the Gods or something similar in. It definitely looks like black is more open than red, and it's also the potentially more powerful color. So just gonna move in on black now and see if that works out. Still not a fan of the Titan, and Flashmat Steed is really mediocre. I don't like Unknown Shores because it is only a colorless land, so it makes your spells more expensive. Flashmat Steed doesn't look like I would want to run, so I'm gonna take March of the Returned, which is sometimes a nice sideboard card in grindy matchups. Alright, I have never played this guy, but I'll take him. The maneuver wheeled, so black cards are definitely available. Picking up some white cards here, which we can hide. And now I'm planning for black-green, splashing our Planeswalker, but there's still a pack to convince me to go a different direction. Alright, just as I said this, it's Polis Crusher. Next to Nylea's Emissary, Time to Feed, Baleful Eidolon. But Polis Crusher is pretty insane. It is green-red, we are planning to play Xenagos anyway, so just gonna take it. Our mana base has to work out somehow. Hopefully we see another Nylea's Presence, but I'm not passing that guy. Here we have Temple of Abandon, which not only fixes our mana, but also lets us scry, so definitely an option with the splash that we are planning to make. On the other hand, Coordinated Assault, Titan Strength, and Dragon Mantle aren't really made for this kind of deck. Coordinated Assault would still be great, but we need to get our deck as solid as possible and not think about the cool tricks that we can do once we have our creatures in play. There is a potential second Voyaging Satyr for us, and as much as I like the Temple, having a turn 2 Voyaging Satyr to me seems to be the best thing that this deck can do. So I'm going to take it and hope that we see the Temple, the Assault, or the Nesting Cursor again, but I know that's a bit optimistic. Alright, where's the fixing? There's the fixing in the form of Opaline Unicorn. I'm not sure if I'm willing to go that far though. Right now, putting a single red source into our deck, or maybe two, would still allow us to play our two rares here. And I really don't like the fact that Opaline Unicorn has 0 board impact on its own. It is competing with Leaf Crown Dryad here, which is better than Ill-Tempered Cyclops, even if you have 2 Voyaging Satyrs. I'm quite certain about that. So we also have a lot of 4-drops already, although some of them are really bad. This is between Leaf Crown Dryad and Opaline Unicorn. I don't think that I want to be particularly greedy with our red cards, so I'm looking at only 2 red cards to splash, which makes the Unicorn hopefully not needed, and I'm gonna take Leaf Crown Dryad, which I like a lot, so hope that explains that. Unknown Shores has gotten a bit better now that we have 2 Voyaging Satyrs, because it means that I'm gonna have more mana more often, and then the Unknown Shores actually does something relevant. Also, Xenagos and Polis Crusher are potent enough that casting them on 5 is still good. On the other hand, you won't be able to monsterify the Crusher then on 6, so maybe it's still not the card that this deck wants. I'm looking at Nylea's Emissary and a Crone Horse. I've been a fan of the horse in the beginning, but the more I played with it, the less I liked it. So I'm gonna just take Nylea's Emissary here. In the worst case, it's going to be a 4 mana 3/3, and if we can bestow it on anything large, it's actually great. Alright, here we are looking at the black cards again. And I want to be playing black because of Keepsake Gorgon and 2 Sip of Hemlocks anyway. I think that the black is just much stronger than the red cards that we have, even though it makes the mana worse. And Erebos' Emissary looks like a great fit into this deck. only a single black. It gets accelerated out with the Satyr, and we can discard our excess creatures later on in the game. This doesn't look like a return failing stack, and Furious Cure makes the mana base worse than it already is. This pack doesn't look like it has anything for us, but Pardon of Betrayal is good against us and could actually be boarded in sometimes. Quite interesting to still see those two bestow creatures in the pack. But yeah, a Chrome Crusader and Arena Athlete, not really something that this deck is trying to do. We are seeing another Traveler's Amulet. I'm going to take that instead of a third sip of Hemlock, which would be excessive anyway. And 2 Traveler's Amulet is going to be really nice. Alright, talking about nice, there is Karametra's Acolyte. I'm overloading on 4-drops, and I'm aware of that, but with 2 Voyaging Satyrs, we can afford to have a little more 4-drops than usual. Well, basically switching out some 3-drops for 4-drops, and ramping with the Satyr into the Acolyte sounds really potent. Alright, this is probably going to be it concerning the really good cards, but I'm going to snag a Boon of Erebos here, a card I really like, just to have a nice cheap trick. Might even run it main deck, who knows. And then it's Disciple of Phoenix or Vulpine Goliath. Kind of like the prospect of just having a 6/5 trample. The Disciple, like I said, our Black Devotion isn't good enough, so I'm not a big fan. And then there's still the problem of having double black, which just isn't as guaranteed as in a heavy black-blue control deck, for example. It's time for the Fox and a Dark Betrayal for the sideboard. Okay, Boulderfall, that ship has passed, sailed past because we are only splashing red. Asphodel Wanderer is really not amazing. I'm going to take the Guardians because it blocks Intimidate creatures. But hopefully that's not going to be relevant. Alright, that was a fun draft. We picked up some powerful cards. Let's see if we can make a coherent deck out of this colorful mess. Okay, sticking to the plan. 2 red cards. Let's just do a quick check. There's Anger of the Gods. Doesn't look too amazing with the Voyaging Satyrs. And all the other red cards aren't splash cards. So this is a pretty easy decision. I could see like running Stonechuck Giant because of the 2 Satyrs, but I think that black and green offer enough cards for us anyway. With the 2 Satyrs and 2 Traveler's Amulets, it should be safe to run only 16 lands, but I would be hesitant to go lower. Dark Betrayal is a sideboard card, that's easy. Fade into Antiquity as well. And I will start by cutting some of the 4-drops just to make this look bit nicer. This probably isn't a main deck card either. And then yeah, it's not really clear where to put the bestow creatures. Oh yeah, we have some pretty bad cards still here. Commune with the Gods isn't too bad. It doesn't find Xenagos, but it does mean that we are effectively playing one more fatty, so it protects from flooding while, well, just getting our good creatures into our hand. It's not an amazing card, but it's definitely playable in the deck we drafted. Satyr Hedonist looks really bad, just like it always does, really. The mana boost is fine for the monstrosity creatures, but sacrificing one of your 2-drops to get there just doesn't feel right. So the Hedonist is definitely among the weaker cards in this pool, and the Raptor I'm not amazed with either. This deck currently doesn't have too much against flyers, but with Leafcrown Dryad, Nessian Asp, and a bunch of removal spells that really get anything, I don't think I have to run cards like the Raptor. So cutting that many cards leaves us with 22, and that includes the amulet. So with Nylea's Presence, the 2 Satyrs, and the 2 amulets, I can definitely run 16 lands without risking much, if anything at all. The real question is if it makes sense to maybe splash a red card in this deck. And I talked about Stonechuck Giant as a potential card to splash, which would make the Hedonist have another role in this build. I could definitely see that, just giving us another monster to work with, and the fact that we have 2 Traveler's Amulet, Nylea's Presence, and 2 Satyrs could mean that we can just cast it and monsters it. The alternative is maybe Titan Strength, but that doesn't look too great on the splash. I'm also playing Boon of Erebos, a card I really like. So maybe this is the configuration that I want to run. Not interested in Anger of the Gods on the double splash. It's most likely that I can only cast it with Satyrs in play, and then killing them doesn't sound too amazing. But I kind of like this. Don't think it's too greedy to splash the Stone Shock Giant here. And Satyr Hedonist then, well, has one more job, which means he's going to make it instead of one of these, well, awkward cards. Cutthroat Maneuver could be a nice trick as well, but I probably want to know how the matchup works out before main decking that. Alright, so I definitely need 2 mountains now, because I need to be able to find the second one with Traveler's Amulet. After that, it's really important to have green, but also to have at least 1 swamp in play. I'm not too worried about reaching double black on turn 5 or 6, because of the fact that the Satyrs generate double black as well, as long as I've drawn one of them. So green is definitely more important than black. Maybe a mana base of 8, 6, and 2 is what this deck wants. 6 black sources still gives us a lot of sources for the black cards. 8 green isn't insane, but it also allows us to search for a forest with Traveler's Amulet if it's necessary, and then we still have a healthy amount of black sources to draw into the required mana. Yeah, I kind of like that. Not a very typical deck, but one I'm looking forward to playing. Let's see how this goes.